Hello, I'm Isabella. Welcome back to my channel. Today is a writing vlog. It's a writing vlog about me preparing to write the first draft of my novel within the next 3 months. A few months ago, I made a video about how you can outline your novel using the Snowflake Method. And so the Snowflake Method is a method in which you can identify what the main points of your novel is, so you can put it together and so that you know your novel is going before you actually start actively writing it. So I did the method, I was pretty successful with it, and I have a whole manuscript outline right here. I like to think that I'm a pantser. I like to think that I'm just so free and free-spirited, you know, just going with the flow, writing what I want. But honestly, I am someone who's very cautious and I care a lot about making the right decision. For the last couple of months, I've actually been taking some creative writing courses over at U of T with their continuing studies program. So I've been taking courses in how to write poetry and how to write short fiction and in how to write a novel. So I have a lot of poetry, I have some short fiction, and even for my writing a novel course, I've been writing scenes here and there for my novel. But even then too, like, my scenes feel like scenes, but the actual novel, the actual first few drafts, I find it to be very intimidating. I feel like this is like a sign from the universe that I actually had to sit down and actively literally write my novel. I actually got a message from Reedsy. So Reedsy is a company that focuses on books and writing and self-publishing and editing, and they reached out to me and they asked me if I would like to try their how to write a novel course. So this is like a 101-day course, so approximately 3 months. And during this time period, they'll give you the tools and lessons for you to be able to craft your first draft of your novel. I thought that was pretty enticing because I would love to just get the first draft of my novel done. I haven't heard of anyone who's taken this course before, but I have been watching a lot of other YouTubers talking about their experience with the course, and so far it seems like it's really good. I'm looking over the course right now and it looks like there are preparation videos that you can do before you start the actual classes, and so this video I wanted to go through those preparation classes with you so that, I mean, for myself, I can figure out if I would like to be a part of this class, but even just to open it up to other people as well if this is something that you'd be interested in. I would like to clarify that I am enrolled in this class for free because Reedsy reached out to me and they asked me if I wanted to test it out. But if you wanted to enroll in the class, it would cost $1,250, which I know for a lot of people that might be kind of steep, but if you have the funds to do it and if you think that this is interesting, I think that it might be worth checking out. They did say that they crafted this class to make it similar to an MFA level class, which means that what you get from it could be very similar to what you get from an MFA, which is pretty interesting. They offer 20 hours plus of high quality video masterclasses, 12-month access to their writing community forum, weekly webinars with writing coaches and authors, accountability and critique as you write your first draft, and 5 video prep sessions that get you ready to write. This course instructor, his name is Tom Bromley, and this is also my first time hearing about him, but he seems like he's pretty cool, has a lot of experience. He says he's worked in publishing for 25 years as an author, editor, and creative writing instructor, and a ghostwriter. He has an MA in creative writing, and he's published a whole lot of books. That's really interesting. And then when I was looking through the trailer and stuff too, I really like the production quality. I've joined the non-pantser community. There's gotta be a word for that, right? Like, what are you if you're not a pantser? A plotter. A plotter. I swear to God I knew that. Okay, so as a new plotter, I'm very excited to take this course. Now, I didn't get this information from the website or anything, but when I was watching another creator's video on the course, they said that the goal is to write 75,000 words within the next 3 months, which is kind of, oh my God. But I think it's also a very fun challenge. I think 75,000 words in 3 months is actually not the worst. That's like 25,000 words a month, which I think is like very doable. Like 1,000 words or less in a day. I think that's something that can be done. So this is what we're focusing on for the prep sessions. We're focusing on the 5 P's, which is pitch, protagonist, plotting, point of view, and place.
Welcome to the warm-up sessions of the Reedsy novel writing course. Each session we're going to look at a different key element of your novel to get you planning and prepping in readiness to start writing your novel that you're writing about. If you can see all these details clearly in your head, then you'll be in a much better place to hit the ground running when starting the course.
Okay, so I just watched the first video of the prep lessons, which was called The Pitch. And so far, it's been really informative. I mean, it's only a 13-minute video, but it's very compact, which I really appreciate because I personally have a very short attention span, and sometimes I find it hard to watch videos for like hours at a time. But this is really helpful because I felt like all the information was very saturated. The instructor, Tom Bromley, like he went into depth about what a pitch is all about. I learned that a great pitch is only really one sentence, and that this sentence should cover story, conflict, outcome, change, and specific. You shouldn't go into themes, you shouldn't go into multiple different narratives. It's quite simply what this story is about and why someone would read it. I also like that in this video, like Tom Bromley went through a bunch of different genres and gave examples of what it would be like to write a pitch in these different genres. And like I said before, right, like I made a video on how to write an outline, how to make an outline using the Snowflake Method. And because of that, I already have some things down. Like I already did write an elevator pitch for that outline, and I already wrote some summaries of characters and themes and whatnot. But because that was also months ago, I now get the chance to go back and revisit that pitch and rewrite it to make it more concrete because I didn't have this information before. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And that was like the first task, which is to write your elevator pitch. So I'll be back. Okay, so writing an elevator pitch is much harder than I thought because you really have to figure out what your story is about. And writing this pitch has got me thinking a lot more about setting and what world exactly they live in, and how the conflict isn't just about my main character, it's actually about her entire world and where she lives in and how everyone is a part of this one specific story. And so I've been writing and rewriting a bunch of different pitches. The second task of this first lesson is to imagine that you're actually in an elevator with a fictional editor and you're relaying your story idea to them, like you're giving them your pitch. Your task is to write about what their response would be. Like if you were to pitch your pitch to an actual editor, would they be hooked? Would they be interested compared to all those other manuscripts that are lying on their desk? And I thought that's like a really fun exercise because true, like when you're writing a pitch, sometimes you just want to get it done, but now you have to really think about it. Like, is this actually interesting enough that someone else would want to pick it up and read it? So far, I'm gonna be honest, my pitch sounds really boring. How do you make a pitch interesting? You know what, I'm gonna have to read up on like other famous novels and see what they did for their pitch. Like how did Suzanne Collins pitch The Hunger Games? Okay, so I couldn't find like a direct pitch, but according to Wikipedia, the inspiration for The Hunger Games came from when Suzanne Collins was channel surfing on TV, and on one channel she saw people competing on a reality TV show, and then another she saw the footage of the invasion of Iraq, and the two began to blur in this very unsettling way, and that's how she formed her idea for her book. That is so powerful. I took a little break, but now I'm back. Number 2, the protagonist. Let's see what this is all about.
In the second of our prep sessions, we're going to look at the role of the protagonist in your novel. The better that you can know your lead character before you start writing, the more you'll be able to write with confidence and authority. It's also the case that when there are plot issues with your story, more often than not, the answer to unravelling them is to get to know your central characters better. And when I've worked with writers who have got stuck on their narratives, the key to unblocking them wasn't to try and create more plot, but to go back over their central character and develop them further.
So I finished the second lesson on the protagonist, and I found this very valuable actually, because one thing that I learned from this lesson was that, you know, how you write an enticing character is to think about their wants and needs. And even in my other writing classes, you know, I learned that there has to be some kind of reversal that happens, right? Like at the beginning, your character really wants something, but then something shifts your character's perspective to realize perhaps that's not what they want, right? Like there's a reversal in their emotions and in their feelings. And I always found that kind of difficult when I was writing stories because I don't know how to write a reversal that is satisfying. You know, I don't know how to make it make sense to the audience or to the readers when they read my work. But this makes a lot of sense, which is that the first half of your novel should be about your character's wants, and the second half should be about their needs, which is that they go after their want, they're unfulfilled, and that's when it's revealed to them, like what they really need is revealed to them, and that's the reversal, that's the emotional change, and it should make sense to your reader and for your protagonist, right? I might actually just like watch all the lessons and then do the tasks afterwards, but the task for this lesson was, for 1, to think about what your character needs and wants, 2, think about what they're like on a daily basis, you know, like what do they eat, what would their password be, things like that, and 3 is to create a mood board about what they look like, so what kind of shoes they're wearing, what kind of hair they have, their jewelry, their clothes, which I think are very good exercises. Okay, good class. All right, on to the third P, the plot.
We're going to look at the topic of plotting. How much should you plan out your novel before you start writing? How do you go about doing so? What are the principles behind plotting that you need to know?
Oh my god, wasn't I literally just talking about this? I finished lesson 3, which was on plot. I really liked this lesson a lot, and it does feel like there's a lot of saturated information in there. I liked that the instructor talked a lot about causality, which is like every chapter in your novel, it needs to advance the plot in some way. You know, when your character acts in a certain way or does something, it's because something else happened right before it. Causality is like a series of events that happen in a very specific order, and that's what your plot is. Also, for the plotter versus pantser thing, or in this case they called it planner versus pantser, I think, for a lot of writers, they get their enjoyment out of just writing and just seeing where the plot goes and seeing what their characters do. They have no idea, whereas for other people, they meticulously plan everything, and that's what gives them the story. And what I really appreciated is that the instructor also brought up how you can kind of do a little bit of both, and he started talking about I think Patricia Highsmith. Okay, it's called Creative Writing Lessons from Patricia Highsmith, and so she talks about how you can be a little bit of both, which I think is ideal, and I think that's what like I am, which is that I can only plot to a certain extent. Even right now, like having to think about who my character is beforehand and not just like free writing, like I need to actively think about like who they are, where they come from, like what nationality they are, how old they are, what they eat, like all of this. I'm getting a headache just from thinking about it because I'm the kind of person where I don't want to be confined. I think I was really nervous that I'm gonna mess up the plot, and so I don't want to commit to one outline. But I always have to like remind myself, I'm not committing to this one outline, like I can always change it as I go along. Like, I like writing it out first and then going back and seeing, oh, they're kind of like this and they're kind of like that. Oh, it makes sense if they're this age, or it makes sense if they dress like this. It's something that I only discover after I write something because my brain just makes all these connections. So I think I'm definitely somewhere in between. So I finished lesson 3 earlier, and after that I decided to take a little bit of a break, and the task for that lesson was to plot plan, so coming up with a character arc and then going chapter by chapter to figure out the causality of each chapter. And I had to add complications and challenges because your character really has to be tested. In order for them to grow, they really have to be going through the most. And I'm really bad at that because, oh my god, I heard like that saying, like, kill your darlings, and I'm too much of a softie. This is hard. Tomorrow morning I'm gonna finish lesson 4 and 5. Let's see how it goes. Good afternoon. I'm so tired. But today I'm gonna be doing lesson 4 and 5 from the 5P preparation classes. So lesson 4 is on POV, point of view, and lesson 5 is on place, as in setting. I believe the lessons are also like 10 to 15 minutes long, as they always are, and then afterwards I'm gonna do all the rest of the tasks all at once. So I'll have like a couple hours where I'm just writing. Another thing, another realization that I had when I woke up this morning, and honestly it was kind of in the back of my brain this whole time, like this entire time that I've been writing this outline, and that is that for my short story class that I'm in currently, I wrote a short fiction piece. It was very, very short, like 1100 words. But I really connected with the 2 main characters in that story. Like, they were very real and their dynamic was just so fresh. Like, I was listening to music the other day on a car ride and I was just imagining these 2 characters and their dynamic, them just like interacting with each other, what they would say to each other, what kind of feelings they evoke out of each other. And I felt really inspired by it. But the thing is, I have this whole other novel outline, right? Like the one that I've been working on this whole time, the one that I made my previous video about, and that's more of like a fantasy novel, whereas like the short story I wrote about was more like contemporary, coming of age. And I found that I actually enjoyed writing that short story and spending time with those characters a little bit more than I am with the outline I'm currently working on. Another thing though that I want to bring up is that these two characters from the short story I was writing about, they're more close to me in real life. Like they have thoughts and experiences that I'll also experience, and some of the characters in that story were sort of based around people that I know in real life. The only issue with that is that I don't want my work of fiction to be like real life. It interferes with the flow of the story when authors put themselves in the narrative, because I think it's kind of difficult when you're the author to separate yourself from your characters, right? Like you're a little bit more biased in that way. But with my novel outline, it's like these characters have nothing to do with me. They're not self-inserts whatsoever. They're like entirely their own unique things. And when I'm plotting their stories, it's like, yeah, I can plot it, but like, you know, that heart, that like magic you feel when you're writing, it doesn't come out of me as naturally when I'm working on the story that my outline is based off of. But anyway, I'll think about that afterwards. I have like a couple hours before I have to do my writing exercises, so I'll be back.
Today, we're going to look at the fourth of our preparation piece, deciding the point of view and also the tense that you're going to use to tell your story. This is a call that I recommend you make before you start writing, because if you don't, and you have to change halfway through the text, I can tell you from personal experience that it is both a mind-numbing and surprisingly fiddly element to unpick.
Okay, so that was lesson 4 on point of view, and I really liked this lesson. I think it was my favorite one, and I thought that the instructor did a really good job at explaining the multiple different point of views and tenses. We got the first person, which is when you use I. You've got the second person, which is when you use the viewpoint of you. Then you've got plural viewpoints, so if you say we, and then you got the third person limited, and then you got the third person unlimited or omniscient. When you're writing in third person, you use he, she, they. You're speaking as if you're like an observer on the outside. And for third person limited or third person close, you're focusing on one character's thoughts and feelings. You're not head hopping, you're not talking about another character's thoughts and feelings and motivations, you're focusing on just the one. And for third person omniscient, it's like you can get into multiple different characters' heads. What I found to be great about the third person omniscient, and at least with my own experience writing in that point of view, is that your narrator is kind of like a ghost. Like they know the past, the present, the future. Like they're just not of this realm, and they know things that your main character doesn't know. And I like that because I think it brings like the reader closer to the narrator, if that makes sense. It's like you and the narrator are in cahoots, but your protagonist and all these other characters, like they don't know what you and this narrator know. So I really like that point of view of storytelling, because I like this idea that the narrator is a character on their own. Like they're kind of like God, and they just like know these things and they're just relaying that story to you. So I'm probably gonna be writing in third person omniscient. I think it also adds to like the drama of the whole thing, you know, when some characters know things that others don't, and then you as the reader know some things that other characters don't. Like I just feel like I like that method of storytelling because it just adds a lot of tension, and there's so much you can do in terms of plot. And also because I have like a bunch of different characters that I want to write about and focus on. If I am going with my original story outline, like there's so many different characters that have like very unique and interesting backgrounds, and I feel like their point of views need to be expressed in order to move the story forward. So I most likely will be writing in third person, unlimited, or omniscient. We also talked about tense. So what the instructor said was that like present tense is still more of like a newer thing, but like traditionally people write in the past tense. I also think with present tense, it's very difficult to keep it up. When you tell a story, you almost always tell it in past tense. You know, like when you're just like relaying your day to somebody else, or like you're talking to someone else about something that has occurred or happened, it's almost always in the past tense. And so I think in terms of like the English language, it's just so much easier to talk in the past tense. Therefore, I think it's going to be easier to write in the past tense. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And now for the next video, which is on place.
Every novel needs a location. Every good novel needs a setting that resonates in the reader's mind. We're going to look in detail during the course proper about different ways that you can bring your locations to life.
So I did it. I watched all 5 preparation videos on the 5 Ps, and the last one was on place and setting. Things that I learned in this video was, for one, you need to know where your story takes place, like, duh, obviously. But like, it's like actually really important that you do have a proper setting, like that it's not too ambiguous or vague, because if it is, your reader will feel very ungrounded, and even for you when you're writing the story, you'll feel very ungrounded, I think. So it's really important that you have like a setting established, even if it isn't super detailed. You have to consider when, like, what is the technology like at this time? Like, do they have the technology that we have right now? Is it very futuristic? Is it from the past? Like, you know, it's really important to identify like how these characters can communicate with one another, how they find information, things like that. So technology is a really important part of your story. If your story is taking place in the real world, you have to think about like global events. You know, like, do you add COVID into your fictional tale? Do you talk about what it was like pre-COVID, after COVID? Or do your characters live in this like fictional world, parallel universe where COVID just never happened? Honestly, I think that's what I'm gonna do in mine, because I absolutely detest, hate it when shows or like books incorporate COVID into their fiction. All that's left for me to do is to work on the tasks. So task 1, I still have to write my elevator pitch, which is like a single sentence, and then the task after that was that I need to write out a scenario in which I'm literally pitching my novel to an editor in the middle of an elevator and think about what their response would be. Lesson 2, the task was to think about the wants and needs of my character, and task 2 would be to think about like how they react to their daily life. And the third task was to create a mood board of my character's essence, you know, like what kind of clothes do they wear, what kind of jewelry do they wear, what do they look like. For lesson 3, which was on plot, the tasks were to look at all the quotes that the instructor went through regarding plot and decide like how you approach plot. Are you a plotter or a pantser, a little bit of both? And then next thing is to create a plot plan. So thinking about character arc, doing a chapter by chapter plan, thinking about causality, like test it to see if every chapter will advance your novel, and then to thicken the plot, so adding complications to the plot to force my characters into growth. And the third task was to choose a book and to do a chapter by chapter plan of the first 70 to 100 pages. So go through it and see how each chapter advances the plot. Ooh, that is a big task. For lesson 4, which is on POV, the first task was to choose a point of view and tense, and the second task was to write a text involving the protagonist. I guess to test it out to see if like you like writing about your protagonist in that point of view and tense. And then for the 5th lesson in place, the task was to think about where it takes place, when it takes place, to decide if it's fictional or real, to look at the details of the setting, and think about what kind of novel you have and also what kind of writer you are when you're thinking about setting. Also to find visuals and find senses for your setting. So like, what does it feel like when you're there? What does it smell like or look like? And to figure out the culture, fashion, food, history of the people that are living in your setting. I think for like the tasks in lesson 5 regarding place, this is probably something that's going to take like my entire novel to really discover. Man, I have to get to writing. I have hours of writing in front of me. I genuinely thought that I could do these exercises as I went along each video. Like I can stop and do my exercise for 30 minutes and then like get back and like talk to you guys. But like honestly, I think these exercises might take me a few hours, maybe even more than a few hours. It might take me a few days. And on top of that, I have so much schoolwork to catch up on. Like I am a little bit behind. So I'm gonna be gone for like the next few days or for the next week. Okay, I'll see you guys very soon. My writing chair has become my laundry chair now, so just ignore that. So I finally finished all 5 prep lessons, and then I attempted the exercises, but I do have to say I found the exercises kind of hard to do because you need to make like definitive decisions about it, you know? Like even with my elevator pitch, I had to know what the story was, who the characters were, and what the outcome was at the end. And even for setting, it's like I have one setting in mind, but this is 2. I don't know what I just did there. I had one setting in mind so far, but this world I'm trying to write about is so expansive that I know it's not going to be just this one setting. I don't even know if I want this setting to be the main setting, but it's all I have right now. And so I found that these prep sessions, they're very helpful to get you to think about your story, to keep things in mind, but I have a feeling that I'm gonna struggle with completing the exercises until I've actually done the classes themselves and until I've done some more actual writing. And I think that has to do with the fact that, like, you know what, I really am a pantser. I'm just a pantser. Even with my academic essays, I don't even write the introduction until I've written out all of my arguments first, because usually I don't even know what I'm talking about until I've written it out and it's right in front of me, and then I know what the introduction is all about, and then I know what the thesis is all about, and then I can give my essay a title. And that's how it's always been for me. That's just the kind of writer that I am. So if you're something like that as well, I think like actually writing is going to be a little bit more helpful. And I don't know what the next 101 lessons of this course is going to be like. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do more exercises like I just did in the first 5 lessons. Even if I did, I think it's like, it's great. Like, it's very helpful. Like, it's given me some more direction. I feel more guidance about what I'm writing about. But yeah, like I just have to admit, like I think I did the exercises a little bit poorly because I just couldn't think of anything. Like I just couldn't, like as much as I wanted to, like, be sure about everything I'm writing about. Like I just wasn't sure about absolutely everything. And so I did like most of the exercises, but some parts I left kind of vague, or some parts I left kind of blank, because I know that I just have to write it out to figure it out. But so far, so good. I feel more confident about my novel. Now it's like, I know that there's like a very like specific formula. There's a very specific way to write a good story, and having it right in front of me is very helpful, you know, like with the lessons and everything. I recommend the lessons so far, because so far with the prep lessons, it really did feel like a crash course. Like you're kind of just learning like everything you need to know immediately. I'm really excited to take the actual course, and I think I'll probably make some more videos regarding it, because it seems like, you know, like writing an entire novel in 3 months, I think I'm gonna be doing a lot of writing, and I'm probably gonna be filming more writing vlogs. If you'd like to sign up, there's a cohort opening up on October 28th, 2024, so it's like very, very soon. But if you missed that one, there's another one opening up on January 6th. So you can like follow the link that I leave in the description if you'd like to sign up for the course. And to be transparent, I would be getting a small commission if you do end up successfully signing up for the course. If this seems like it's something that's interesting to you, then I think you should check it out, because so far, like, I don't really have anything negative to say about it. But if it's not really up your alley, or if it's not something you want to like invest in right now, then that's totally understandable as well. It's totally up to you. Whatever you think is best for your writer's journey is what you should do. Good luck on your novel, if that's why you're watching this video, because you want to figure out how to write a novel. Good luck on that, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.